So Xbox has been actually very good about backwards compatibility. You can play Xbox OG games on the series. God, they have terrible names. Hot take, Xbox Series is a terrible name. But yeah, you can play from all 4 generations on the current
like
iteration.
the disc, or they have like they release like digital versions of old games.
Both. Yeah, which is cool. But a lot of these people are like, I've invested in this platform, and if you guys stop making hardware and you're just selling like PlayStations and Switches, it's not going to be backwards compatible to my old Xbox stuff. So like, you're killing my lineage. People had like a lot of people were angry about this particular like digital lineage.
YUNKJunk!
Hi, welcome back to Tubby Talk, where we talk about the latest and greatest in video games.
That's right. Yeah, and you're Steve.
You're Chris.
That's right. Oh, that was good synergy. I liked it. But yeah, so Steve is back. Terry's gone. It's all right. We keep rolling. The podcast must flow.
We're really the same person. You never see us at the same place at the same time anymore.
True. Rip off his mask. But yeah, so today we were thinking, I wanted to bring up something Steve did not want to talk about, because he says he's not interested in this, but there's this thing going around the gaming world right now, and it's about the Xbox and Microsoft, and what is Microsoft doing with the Xbox? Because they just had an announcement. They had apparently it was a podcast where they went on with their executives, and they're like, "Hey guys, just so y'all know, there's been a lot of talk going on, but we are planning on releasing some of our first-party Xbox games onto competing platforms."
That's why I love hearing news from video gaming executives on a podcast.
Yeah, that's what I listen to on my Tuesdays.
Gives you even more reason to not care about it.
Yeah, so basically they were like, we're going to do this, and then a lot of people were freaking out. The Xbox people who are like, oh my God, you're going to kill the Xbox. But they're like, hey guys, just so you know, we are working on new hardware. We're committed to the Xbox brand and the hardware, and it's coming. There's a big fancy new one coming we're developing. And then, so cool your jets. But I think it kind of lends into the question, why do you have an Xbox? And the question, why don't you have an Xbox, Steve?
Well, first I'll phrase it how Chris phrased it to me earlier, because that couches my reaction.
Yeah.
I think, at least. Maybe it doesn't. So Chris is like, yeah, blah, blah, blah. He tells me about the announcement. He's like, maybe we can talk about that in the podcast today. And I was like, I don't care about that at all. So I don't know why I would talk about it, because it doesn't make good conversation for me. I was like, you guys can talk about it. You and Terry can talk about it all you want.
Yeah.
I was like, I don't really have any reason to talk about it. And Chris is like, the look on his face to me was like, oh, that's an interesting take.
Yes, it is. Well, all right, here's the thing on the internet. When you trash any of the big 3, people care. And so this isn't even you trashing it, though. You're like, I don't even care enough to trash it.
I did not read the announcement. I saw a headline that said something about the rumor, and that was the most thought I gave to it until you brought it up today.
Well, apparently there are lots of people who own Xboxes who freaked out because they're like, hey, you're throwing I've invested in this console and you're throwing it under the bus. And they were like, people are theory crafting this pretty deep. So one of the things, so Xbox has been actually very good about backwards compatibility. You can play Xbox OG games on the series. God, they have terrible names. Hot take, Xbox Series is a terrible name. But yeah, you can play from all 4 generations on the current iteration.
Like the disc, or they have like they release like digital versions of old games.
Both. Yeah, which is cool. But a lot of these people are like, I've invested in this platform, and if you guys stop making hardware and you're just selling like PlayStations and Switches, it's not going to be backwards compatible to my old Xbox stuff. So like, you're killing my lineage. People had like a lot of people were angry about this particular like digital lineage, which is also a little bit silly, I think, because just don't throw out your Xbox and you have access to all those things, right?
I mean, yeah, on one hand, but on the other hand, I don't know. I know Xbox to 360, there was a whole big focus on like multimedia stuff.
Yes.
Which was lampooned a lot at the time, I remember.
Well, that was 360 Xbox One was where the big one was.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I feel like it happened with the 360 too, because they released like the Netflix app, streaming app and things like that. And I remember people being like, why would you want Netflix on your Xbox?
See,
and to me, I was like, I don't have a set-top box or a PC that I can hook up to my TV. So that's better than not having Netflix to me. I bought Not I bought it for it, but I used it for Netflix a lot.
Yeah, I think a lot of people...
Probably more than I use it for Xbox exclusive games.
A ton of people use their consoles for streaming stuff, for sure. And I remember, I think Netflix, when it was first doing streaming, said like the Wii was one of their top used apps. Like most people were watching their streaming stuff on the Wii. This was right after they started moving away from shipping discs. They still did it.
I had a disc for, I think it was Gladiator, one of my favorite movies, but I had it sitting on my desk and I forgot to return it to Netflix, and it was sitting there until I moved out of that apartment like 2 years later. And I was like, oh yeah, I probably owe a bunch of money for this. They didn't care. They moved away from it so hard. They didn't even
charge
send
you a
for
bill?
the disc. Yeah, they didn't charge me for anything.
They never noticed that you didn't send
I was
Gladiator
streaming
back?
the whole time. I guess it was included in my account.
Yeah.
Maybe that's why I didn't notice. Because it was included. So they're like, he just likes watching. He wants to keep it for 2 years. That's fine.
Yeah. But I remember when I first brought this up about Xbox, you were like, hey, well, first you were like, I don't care. Yeah. But then at the same time, you were kind of like, well, it makes sense. They bought all of the third parties. They bought all the developers.
Bethesda bought Activision Blizzard. Bought Rare a while ago.
Yeah, Activision Blizzard's kind of the newest one. They're still kind of digesting that in their gullet. But then you're like, they need to put it out there to make money.
Yeah, like I'm like, if you're going to take it from multi-console to one console, you're cutting a revenue stream in half. So you might as well keep it on two. And that was my first thought. Yeah,
it's kind of silly because what these first parties would do, the platform holders, is they would pay a third party to keep it exclusive. They'd say like, Resident Evil 4 on the GameCube originally was a Capcom game, and Nintendo was like
exclusive to.
Hey, yeah, and Nintendo was like, we will give you money so you don't put it on other platforms. Yeah. Try to make the GameCube seem more enticing, I guess, playing a long game. It didn't work out so good.
Unless you really want to play Resident Evil 4.
Right. But there's still a bunch of things like that. But in this case, if you own the third party, you're not going to pay the third party to keep it exclusive. You own it.
Yeah, so like, this is how little I cared about it. We were talking about this, and I realized that Starfield was not on PlayStation 5.
Right.
I assumed it was.
Because it feels like a multi-platform game.
It was a Bethesda game made by Todd Howard, Mr. Buggy Crappy Game himself. And I'm like, I remember being very excited about the idea of Starfield until I realized it was a Todd Howard joint. And then I was like, nah, I don't care about this game. And then it came out, and the reviews were very mixed. But I think by now, everybody's that wasn't a huge stand was like, it wasn't good.
Yeah.
Or not compelling in any way like a Fallout 4 was.
Yeah, I put like an hour into it, and I was like, I like space. I like the idea of, an open world in space. And this character creator, dude, every time I get to a character creator, I used to get excited. Now I'm just bored. I just want to click, default. And I sit there and I'm like, all right, change the thing. And they're like, well, change your nose bridge angle and your nose bridge width and your nose bridge height.
So much.
It's just, I like that it gives me that. I don't want to have to do it.
It doesn't seem like, I guess it depends on the shape of the nose. Sometimes it doesn't do anything.
Yeah.
Like this Street Fighter 6 character creator, I spent like hours trying to figure out why the nose slider was not changing anything.
Yeah.
It was just because Capcom's racist and has big noses. But yeah, so Starfield's coming out, and I'm just like, yeah, it must be on everything. It's a Bethesda game.
Yeah.
And then I saw recently, they're like, oh, rumors of it coming out on PS5. And I'm like, this is from last week.
Yeah.
Why is it out on PS5? What the hell?
Why are you talking about Starfield still?
Well, that's what intrigued me. I'm like, it's not old. Yeah. Why is this headline telling me this thing? And I didn't click through it because I didn't care. It was an interesting tidbit.
Yeah. Well, so that's an example, though, of one that's like, well, that could go multi-platform. And the question becomes, well, why don't you put all of your games on every platform to make more money?
If the exclusivity is not driving sales of your console.
Right. And the issue is, I think, with most of these platform holders, they don't make money from selling the console itself. Like, over time, maybe they make a little bit of profit, but in the beginning, at least lately, they've been selling at a loss. They're losing money by selling these boxes to you.
Yeah, like, they need reasons to make the box. So that's why, that's how I see it. They need reasons to make it so they get exclusive games. So they have a reason to even make it in the first place because they know they got a built-in following of like, like Spider-Man for PlayStation. You want to play Spider-Man 2, you got to play Spider-Man 1, the Insomnia one. Mm-hmm. You needed to buy a PS4.
Right.
Initially.
Yeah.
A couple years later, they put it out on PC.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, if they do that for Spider-Man 2, I have zero need for a PS5. Which kind of leads me to the rant that Chris was alluding to earlier. Because when I said I didn't care anything about Xbox having exclusives or not, and Chris was like, well, you know, people buy consoles because of the games that are exclusive to that console that are coming out. And if I remember correctly, I think I said, like, I can't think of any game that's exclusive to Xbox that I've ever heard of or cared about. Or something along those lines. Because I was like, I literally don't know any from this generation. I don't remember Crackdown was a first party game, even though that seemed fun, but I never played it because I need to get an Xbox for that.
Right. Nothing that made you want to buy the box.
Yeah, no. I played, so then that started me on my revisionist history of my console purchases. Ever since I was old enough to afford my own console responsibly. Yeah. So Dreamcast does not count because that was very irresponsible. That put me in debt for like 5 years.
Yeah, we're talking like post high school years.
Yeah, adult job. I work for the government. I have money to go buy a console and spend time to play it because I work 9 to 5.
Yeah,
like during those years, I had. I'll go in order. I had a GameCube. I had an Xbox 360. I had a PS4, which was a gift actually for my girlfriend. So I didn't even buy that one. And then that's the most current mainline console I have. Yeah. I have a Switch, which is great. I wouldn't put it in the same league as those only because it was cheaper than those. So it was less, and it was a hybrid portable. I love the Switch, but I'm like, it's not the same thing. It's like this thing I'm going to plop under my TV. What, I got to spend $500 on it. What am I going to buy? Like, it was a very easy decision to buy a Switch.
Yeah, and I feel like those boxes are getting less compelling. And maybe it's just a generational thing. Like, we're older and we've been through generations of this at this point. I don't know. But when I think about, I have no desire to get either an Xbox Series or a PS5. And I'm a PC gamer and a Switch gamer right now, and that's kind of, and retro, but like those are the two modern things I play, and I don't feel I'm missing anything. Like there's not really anything out there that I'm like, I really need to get my PlayStation 5 for this. Well,
not to tell you about the type of games you like.
Yeah.
But I feel like you have talked about how you're not like a huge story game guy.
Yeah.
Like you like a game story maybe as a cherry on top of a satisfying gameplay.
Right.
But you're not like, I'm going to buy this game for the story or buy this game because I really want to play through this game's story, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
I feel like a lot of those are a lot of the hooks that they use for some of the exclusives, like the ones I pay attention to, like Spider-Man.
Yeah.
The Insomnia Spiderman was probably, to me, the perfect Spider-Man game. I don't think I'm controversial or alone in saying that, but it's a very good Spider-Man game. You got to swing like Spider-Man. The characters all were very true to themselves. It wasn't even true to comics. It didn't need to be, but true to themselves. There's internal consistency to like the whole game. I enjoy playing it. It was one of my favorite gaming experiences for like that type of game.
Yeah.
A game that's not pure gameplay, but the gameplay even was very fun. There was some repetitive open world stuff, but I can always easily ignore that. I'm not too OCD with games, so I'm not like, I have to do this marker that's blinking. If it's a marker that's annoying, I stop doing it. Now, if it's a marker that I almost completed with an S rank, then I might get, a little absorbed because I was like, I need to get an S. I got an A rank. I need to get the S rank. So you could play this game like that of just skill challenges. And it's fun. I wanted to do it for that in the story. So I enjoyed it like full spectrum.
Yeah, so you were just like, this is a game that's interesting to me on many levels, and you did enjoy it.
Yeah, and then like playing through it, like there were many moments where I was like, oh, Chris would hate this type of stuff. Like, oh, there's a cutscene and then some quick time actions. There's not a ton, but there's enough to be like, oh, I either want to watch this or want to play it. I don't want to have to watch it and stop to play it.
Yeah.
And start over again if I don't play it fast enough while watching. Like, that annoys me too. But yeah, like if you liked this type of game, I feel like you would have been compelled to get a PS4 to play it, pre-knowledge of the PC port, because if you liked this type of game, this is a really fun type of game of this ilk to play.
Okay, yeah. So,
but like,
all of like you're saying, all of these big like AAA games coming out are very story driven and are just perhaps not in my wheelhouse.
Like, yeah. So like, I feel like that could possibly be part of it. Is you're like, oh, there's no games on Xbox that I want to play immediately, especially on Xbox. They're probably coming out on PC. Like, there's been a history of that. Like I remember you played Mass Effect when it came out on PC. Mm-hmm. I bought an Xbox 360 to play Mass Effect specifically.
Yeah,
and it came out like 5-6 years later on PC. It was a while later.
It was a long time.
So if I just wanted to play the game and I already have a PC, I would have waited 6 years. But I didn't want to wait 6 years. I want to play it now because it's one of my favorite games of all time. Again, also story driven.
Yeah.
The gameplay, at least in 2, is more direct action than 1 was. 1 was really weird, like RPG-ish, like mechanics. Did you bounce off of that, or you just kind of didn't finish playing it? Didn't finish it?
I mean, I kind of bounced off of it, and I kind of a little of both. Like, just didn't have time at the time. You know, it's something that, you know, I know a lot of my favorite people love this game, and so I want to go. Yeah. I would love to give it a shot.
And I know, like, you played other previous BioWare games, and you've enjoyed, like, KOTOR. Knights of the Old Republic.
Yeah, I played a little of that.
I thought you enjoyed it. And, like, Dragon Age Origins, you liked, I thought?
It was all right.
Okay.
Like, none of them, like, made me... Like, I got pretty far in that game, and then I lost the save file. But yeah, these are, like I said, like, I'll play them and I won't hate them, but I'm not compelled. But that's an interesting take. So you think there are a lot of people who are compelled by what the current consoles are offering. Like, they're like, I want to buy this for that.
Either a lot of people or a lot of the console content curators or producers or whatever, the executives are like, this is what will drive people to buy it. Possibly. So maybe it's a cart before the horse type of situation. Yeah. They make those story-driven games exclusive because they hope it's going to draw a certain type of gamer. Maybe. Yeah. I don't know, because I've never bought a system to play a game except for Mass Effect, which was story-driven.
And I feel like with those big games, like, they cost so much money to make, they're trying to cast as wide a net as possible, right? So they want it to be accessible and easy as you want it to be. Maybe have it ramp up to be harder for pros, but like, they want everyone to be able to finish this game. Is in some
I think when they want to be able to start the game. Yeah. After they buy it, they don't care.
Yeah.
They're going to return it.
Well, unless they're selling DLC and things like that, where they want you through the game so they make more money.
Well, so I've noticed, especially like with Mass Effect, at least, the DLC, the earlier DLC was all midstream. Like, if you didn't beat the game, it didn't matter. You can get the DLC and play from where you are. There was like one ending DLC they released for various reasons for Mass Effect 3.
Yeah.
But everything short of that was just like, oh, there's a new point in the map to go to, and they can go to that point in the map and things happen. If you finish the game already, you can still do it because the saves, in these types of games is always right before the end.
But I also feel like with those games, a lot of them come to PC. And
yeah, like belatedly come to PC. Yeah. And that's something that, especially, over the years, I was like, oh, if it's out on, like I said, Xbox, good chance to come to PC.
Mm-hmm.
PlayStation is like less of a chance it used to be.
Yeah.
But now I see more and more, like Horizon has been out for PC. The new one's coming out.
Horizon, Spider-Man.
Yeah, Spider-Man. I think The Last of Us might even be on PC. Yeah, The Last of Us on PC, I think, came out recently. And part of the problem with that, though, is, well, problem for me, because I stopped caring about those games, if I even cared about them in the first place. Naughty Dog sucks. If I cared about them in the first place, I stopped thinking about it after a while, because I'm like, oh, I wanted to play this 3 years ago.
Yeah.
I've moved on now. There's other games I want to play. But for other people, they get the chance to play it on their PC, which might be underpowered compared to the PS4. Or at the time the game came out, the PC might be underpowered to like a PS4. And now it's almost certainly stronger because there's like a 5-year life cycle for computers.
I played Horizon. I'm playing it on my Steam Deck right now, and it's a handheld, and it looks really good on that. But it's years after the first game came out. But you think about this like cross-platform thing, and in general, I would say like the more people who can play a game, the better, right? So you don't want to exclude people necessarily if you're not the business itself. You're like you should like the idea of more people being able to play games you love.
Would want more people to be able to play it.
Yeah, the developer, but just thinking as a gamer, as a consumer, right? Mm-hmm. But there are a lot of people who say like, well, if you take this cross-platform, I'm mad at you.
They want to gatekeep it.
They want to gatekeep. That's the console war mentality, right? Which Terry's still in with the Sony stuff.
Yeah. That led me to the second part of my rant, where I was just like, because as a kid, I had an NES, I had an Atari, then I had NES growing up, and then I got a Genesis. So Chris was huge Team Nintendo the whole way.
Yeah. And
other people in our school were, and like on my block, were like Team Nintendo the whole way. So just as the contrarian I am, especially was as a kid, I'm just like, well, I have a Sega, I'm going to side with Sega. I didn't really care. But I was like, if I have to pick a side, I'm going to pick the side I'm going to bring the dance with the one I brought.
Yeah.
So, but that was literally the extent of my console. And I'm sure I did a lot of like jingoistic. Sega's the best, blah, 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 as a kid.
Yeah.
I also said that about like No Doubt. I was like, No Doubt sucks just because it wasn't rap. And I was like, No Doubt's great. I love No Doubt.
Yeah.
But at the time, I was like, No Doubt sucks because it's not Method Man or something. And I'm like,
So you were raising like the blue flag, and I was raising the red flag. It's just because we felt like we had to hold flags.
just because I was like, I gotta have another flag.
Yeah.
Somebody has a flag, I gotta have an opposite flag because I could have no flag, but then there's no interaction.
Right. And this it's amazing to me. Like we talked a little bit how we don't care about the console wars at all now. Like we don't have an allegiance per se. Like I still love Nintendo, but I own other things. I have owned when I care to own them, I will own them. Right.
Yeah.
And it's gotten to a point where, you know, very fortunate. I could buy everything. I could have each of these platforms. I don't want them.
like I don't see much that you would want to play that's not on PC.
It's not on PC, right?
A. And then B, anything, like few games, like you said, there's like 7 for each console that's exclusive to the console and not on PC.
Yeah.
Out of those games, most of them are things that you don't play.
Right.
Either sports or sim, like sports sim games, or they're like you brought up Gears of War for like Xbox 360. It's like, oh, Gears of War is the Xbox like third-person action game series. I've never played one Gears of War game.
Yeah.
You've played more Gears of War games than I have.
Yeah, I played through it, at least the first one.
Was that on PC? Or was that
was on
360?
Xbox 360.
Yeah. Like, everything about this game disinterests me.
Yeah.
It doesn't even make me mad. I'm just like, I don't care about giant hulking dudes with guns. I hate the cover mechanic. I hated they added it to Mass Effect 2 and 3.
Yeah.
It made me very mad.
Well, this changed almost all like combat in modern games going forward.
For the worse, in my opinion.
Right.
Like, I love like we were talking about before, I love a third-person shooter game where you don't have to be reliant on cover. You can use movement and your gaming skills in order to avoid damage and things like that, to get into out of combat situations. This type of like, oh, if you stand up from this desk at the wrong time, you get shot in the head and die.
Yeah.
You do this whole 15-minute section over again.
And I played through this actually largely. I was playing with my friend Marie, who is in California, and on Xbox you can play together, and that was neat.
Marie gets you to play all sorts of
games
you wouldn't normally play.
Yeah. But in this case, like I enjoyed the process, but like I'm not gonna go back and be like, man, I'm gonna go play Gears of War for old time's sake. Like, no, I didn't. I mean, it's funny. Look at these people. Look at that guy's head.
It's bigger than everybody else's head.
Yeah.
Like all the player characters have giant heads, and the random dude on this planet has like a normal size head. That guy's a normal size head.
Well, he's not a cog. The cogs are the big beefy dudes.
Are they
who wear the
genetically
armor.
engineered to be big and beefy?
I don't think they are. I don't remember.
I assume they're not. I think they're just the big beefy people that decide to shoot bugs.
The main thing with the lore is that they learned how to duct tape a chainsaw onto a assault rifle, and that is the lore. I mean, there's more.
So it's what if Doom was fiddly?
What if Doom was fit? Well, yeah. What if Doom wasn't a balls to the wall action game? I mean, and this
to stop and wait all the time and play Doom. Yeah, it seems like a game I would hate very much.
Yeah, and it's hard to imagine a Doom game where you take cover that much. Like that's not a thing you do.
Wait, so she was sorry, tangent. She was saving the guy by checking the guy out of the way of the giant alien that was holding him by his neck.
Yeah.
Where if the alien had a better grip, his head would have just come off and you would be dead.
Doesn't make sense.
I guess she can't hit the alien because he's taking his gunfire and eating it, so.
Oh, he's got like bat powers.
What? Did that thing come out of him?
And it came out of the ground. So they're the locusts. They're a race that lives inside the center of the earth. And they come out and they're like, now it's time for us to reclaim the surface. No one noticed before this that there's a race living in the center of the earth. That's the real lore of this game. My God, I mean, it's like action movie. It's like an action movie, a forgettable one. You play it, you watch it, and you're like, all right, I had a good time, popcorn. I forget it immediately. Yeah.
Thank you for that summary because I didn't even know that much about the game.
Yeah,
because everything about this game just bores me. My eyes are glazing off the screen just now trying to look at this clip. But yeah, so these types of games were out. So like I didn't get an Xbox 360 to play Gears of War.
Right.
I didn't get to play Halo. I played Halo 4 only because I've read the book series. like the OC novels, and I was like, this is great. This is a lot of deep lore that I've never knew about was in, being in a Halo game. And then you play Halo 1, 2, and 3, and none of it's there.
Yeah.
It's all about who built the Halos, the thing about where the flood comes from, the ancient race that you're fighting on the Halos. There's even an ancient alien human spacefaring civilization that was wiped out by other aliens so hard that they look like Cro-Magnon people, like Cro-Magnons and Neanderthals in our historical record.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, so like that was like the Neanderthals. They went to space themselves, and then they got like blasted back to the Stone Age, literally, because they let the flood loose.
Wow. And
it was like none of this is in any of the games, as far as I know. It's the gameplay does not reflect any of this stuff. And Halo 4 was like, hey, you get to meet the people that blasted the humans back to the Stone Age, and I was like, that seems fun. And it was more shooting grunts, and then Master Chief not saying anything and jumping off of ships into black holes.
So I remember I played a bunch of 360 when that came out. Like that was my, I guess, main big console. I had the Wii as well, but it was underpowered comparatively. So I was playing on that. I remember I played small games. Geometry Wars 2. I know we all played. Yeah. We all had the leaderboards on that. We played it like asynchronously competitive.
Yeah,
which was awesome.
You post your high scores for each of the modes, and you just log on. Even in mid-session, you look at the leaderboard, and it's like, oh, wait, suddenly Chris is above me? Oh, I got to beat his high score now.
And that's a game that could be on anything, but like we played it on that system. I played actually largely Xbox Live Arcade games. That was the dawn of those
me
indie
too.
games.
Like that was the main thing I liked about the console was, I can download a $10, $15 game and play it for a couple hours to have fun, or it could be like a score chase that I can play whenever I want, and it's evergreen because I'm just trying to beat a high score. I'm trying to enjoy this moment-to-moment gameplay loop.
Like that's the one I remember playing Braid on. I played Super Meat Boy on. Love Super Meat Boy.
I played on that a lot too.
I played Civilization Revolution.
I remember that, yeah.
I love that game. Like I would go back and play that game now. Only on the 360. Yeah, it was a great take on Civ that like streamlined things, and
was it like kind of a mix between like Civ and like Advance Wars?
It was just more. It was Civ.
Like it kind of made it like more real time strategy ish, but it was still turn based.
No, it was just Civ, but with like a more friendly,
just simplified Civ. Okay,
and it looked great. It was fun.
I remember Napoleon being like a character you could pick.
Yeah,
he's like pointing his sword and
yeah,
Napoleon.
But then you think about those things, and I was about to say, like, that's the 360, the first Xbox I bought, and it was a gift. My friend, I think Chaim, gifted to me because he had modded it, and he was like, here, you can play all the games for free. And so I paid for all the download games, but Gears of War, I mean, the disc games we ripped.
I mean, you also use it as a Rock Band machine.
Well, yeah, and
I thought that's why you had bought it. I thought you bought it to play Rock Band.
That was one of the main reasons. Yeah, so that's still my main Rock Band machine. It's still in my living room because it plays Rock Band 3, and Rock Band has also been modded. So I got over a couple thousand songs on it, which is wonderful. Yeah, Rock Band is great for that. But I never had like an allegiance to the Xbox. I did enjoy Xbox Live. Like there was something about having every system came with the headsets that you plugged into the controller, and that was neat for that period in my life. And now I can't imagine doing it. I know they still do it, but I don't. But I didn't own any other Xbox ever.
Yeah, me neither.
That was kind of like it was all of our friends had one of those, and then kind of like the next, because the Xbox One came out, and everyone was like, I don't care about that.
Well, weirdly, like one of our employees has an original Xbox console.
Yeah.
And she was talking about her and her brother used to play Jet Grind Radio. And she was talking about it to me recently. She's like 26 or so, I think.
Yeah.
And she was like,
why do you have an OG Xbox?
I'm like, A, why do you know this game? And B, why do you have it? She's like, yeah, we just put it in storage like last year. I should get it out and play it. So I'm talking about it. I'm like, so people have Xboxes with the giant chunky controller it came with. What's it called? The Duke?
The Duke was the nickname for the original.
Yeah. But yeah, Xbox Live Arcade was a very good experiment. I think successful experiment.
Yeah.
In a small indie storefront with mostly indie games, or smaller games from big publishers that they could take risks on things. They could introduce things for not too much money to gamers that might not have a lot of money to buy a $60 game every time they want to play something new.
So here's a question about like exclusivity. Arguably, like from a business perspective, you make more money when you sell more games. So why you bring Nintendo into it? Nintendo has all their first parties never go anywhere else. only on Nintendo consoles.
Yeah.
And people have been making the argument, well, if they released Mario Kart on the PlayStation, Mario Odyssey on the PlayStation, they'd make more money. What do you think of what does that sound right to you?
Nintendo has hardware that they make, in my opinion, in order to support new ideas for software they have. As opposed to other consoles where they're like, we want to make this game and sell it. Maybe we want to make a sequel to our game and sell it. Why not make a new box? And since we have exclusive games, we can basically Kickstarter, crowdfund, at least interest in this new console.
Yeah.
If everybody's clamoring to play Spider-Man 2, but it's only going to be on on a theoretical PS5, people are like, oh, I love Spider-Man. I want to play Spider-Man 2. They know this. So they're like, well, if we make a PS5, we have at least a percentage of those people that love Spider-Man and want to play 2 will buy it.
Right.
Amongst other factors. But Nintendo's like, oh, we really want to make a new Zelda game. We want to have a fun mechanic where you get to build things. They put it on the Switch because the Switch is what they have. If the Switch couldn't run it, I feel like then they would make a Switch 2 or a new console. Because you can see it with Twilight Princess when they started creating it for the GameCube. And they were like, oh, we can't fit all the ideas or the tech on the GameCube. So we're going to make a Wii version. And it comes out on both consoles, but the Wii version is arguably better. I haven't played it just because I refused. I was mad that they decided to split it between two consoles. I'm like, well, the GameCube's not going to be the better version. Yeah. So I kind of put a foot down there.
They're basically identical. Did you know the main difference between those two versions is they are mirror images of one another? Like you go right in one and go left in the other.
That's hilarious. Do you know if that's on purpose?
Yes, it's on purpose. So the reason is, so Link's always been traditionally left-handed with the sword.
Oh, the sword on the left, see on the right. Yeah.
Exactly. But
on the Wii,
most people using their hand, if they're using, they're right-handed. So if they're using that to swing, they don't want it to be off. So they mirrored the entire game.
Oh, wow.
So like the game is basically identical, even graphically, it's about the same. It's just
one goes the other
direction. It's fascinating.
And like with Breath of the Wild, they released that on Wii U and then Switch.
Yeah.
And that one it does run better on Switch.
Yes,
I remember correctly from like the reviews at the time.
Although it was like, it's pretty obvious it was made for the Wii U because like the whole conceit with the game, the pad, I forget what there was not the Purr Pad's in the second one.
It's an input pad? Sheikah pad.
Sheikah Slate.
Sheikah Slate, yeah.
Yeah, the Sheikah Slate is basically a Wii U controller. And they were like, oh, you go and check it and you do all these things. And they gloss over that in the Switch version. It's like, it's a Switch now. They wanted it to be a Wii U.
Yeah. So like with that, like I could see the impetus to make a new console in order to fit this idea they have. Breath of the Wild is probably a better example than I didn't know that about Twilight Princess, that it was basically the same graphically. I know the Wii was called, colloquially, two GameCubes strapped together.
Yeah.
Like performance wise. So I was like, oh, maybe it'll run that much better on it. It wasn't even that. Okay.
Like it's basically a GameCube with a little more RAM.
GameCube and a hat. A GameCube with a RAM cart.
Yeah.
From the N64 rammed in there.
It's certainly not a 2X GameCube.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, but that still speaks to the point to the assumption I made. And the point I was making is that they make the hardware to support the software they want to make.
Yeah, and they always have some
like
kind
the 3DS kind of was that way too.
Yeah, which was all kinds of gimmicks that were really fun that you couldn't, but you couldn't play those games on any other system.
Yeah, and only Nintendo used the gimmicks well, even I would argue.
Yeah,
for the most part.
Oftentimes, I mean, there's usually a couple third parties that'll do it. Like on the Wii U, I would argue that Zombie U did a great job with the Wii U gamepad.
How about that game?
Yeah, and it was one of the only companies, including Nintendo, that figured it out. Like this is a neat thing you can do with this. But yeah, Nintendo has more bespoke hardware, and not necessarily from like a computational perspective, but from an interface perspective. And I think you could argue that the Switch is the least unique of many of the ones they've done recently. Like the Switch, it's portable. That's its gimmick, but
it's a portable Wii.
Yeah, I mean,
in certain ways, you got the motion controls. You got left and right Wiimote. Now they attach to the console.
Yeah,
and they ergonomically feel much better to play non-motion control games with than Wiimotes did.
Yes,
but I mean, it was had that quick and dirty thought. So maybe it doesn't go more than skin deep. But I was
No,
like, it's kind of like a
I think
portable
you're right.
Wii.
Like Nintendo makes
way.
their hardware based on their software, and that's come along with the N64 controller was designed for Mario 64. Like they made it 1-to-1, and then like, well, I guess
they would like to have a 3D control interface. D-pad isn't going to cut it,
right? And they designed it just for that. And I think that synergy between the hardware and the software is really compelling. And arguably it's something that Apple does as well. Like over the years, they have weird, like their operating system is designed for their hardware. Now, over the years, that's become less true. But there's that synergy where like they're like, hey, we know what the hardware is going to be, and we're going to make something that runs on it really well.
Yeah.
We don't have to worry about other hardware. It's just this hardware. Whereas at the time, Windows had to worry about running on like
everything,
8,000 configurations under the sun.
And then so like comparing that to the modern console wars, quote unquote. Yeah, like Xbox and Sony weren't necessarily making consoles bespoke to the games they wanted to make, especially because they had lots of third-party games, let alone first-party, that were console exclusive.
Yeah.
Like I said, they were paid for the exclusives for the third-party games. Yeah, so they were just like, we want a more powerful PS4, full stop. It was nothing about, so it can do this,
right,
so it can push these polygons a certain way. It was like, just because we want a reason for people that have a PlayStation 4 to buy a PlayStation 5.
Yeah. Which is not compelling to me at this point in my life.
Yeah.
And I don't even, like, maybe it's different if you own a 4K HDR TV and you really want to take advantage of those things. I don't have that.
You could do that with PS4 though too. It had 4K and HDR. The games would run worse, because it wasn't designed from the outset with that, but it was possible to do.
Right. So it's not even like a new thing. It's just, hey, you could do what you did before.
Yeah,
it's just better.
Yeah. Yeah. Like I don't have a PS5 because at some point I stopped playing PS4 in the middle of the pandemic, beginning of the pandemic. I was playing Final Fantasy 7 Remake. That's what the first one's called. And I'm playing it through remote play because my girlfriend's working from home in the living area, so I can't really play video games while she's on the phone making work calls.
Yeah.
So I'm like, oh, I'll stream it upstairs from my computer, and it had like a 2-second delay. It ran horribly.
This is local streaming. It was terrible.
this was like 360p or something like that. It wasn't even 720.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, yeah, it doesn't look good. It doesn't run good. I can't really play it. I'm not going to hook up my PS4 from my 57-inch TV to a 19-inch monitor. Yeah. I would never. So I'm like, I'm just not going to play it anymore. And then Destiny 2 came out on PC later that, like around the same time. And I was like, it came on Steam rather, like in April or something like that of that year. And I'm like, oh, I'll go back and give this game a try, which I also played on PS4. And I stopped playing because I couldn't play it in the TV. Now I can play it on my monitor all I want.
Yeah.
And I still play it to this day. If it was a PlayStation exclusive and I had to buy a PS5 to play it, I don't think I would have bought it.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, I'm not going to buy a console that's $500-$600 only to play one game.
Right. That seems silly.
But there's lots, like to speak to your point earlier, there's lots of people that do that.
Yeah.
It's either out of loyalty to their side of the console wars, or as part of their identity is, I'm an Xbox guy. I'm an Xbox girl, so I'm going to buy the Xbox because Xbox.
Right. Like it's part of my identity. And that's a bit weird. Like as an adult, it's weird.
I think it's, so this is the third part of my rant.
Yeah.
I thought it was weird in general that people are just like, oh, I want this system only because it's a thing that I should want. And not it's a thing I want because I will enjoy the fruits of the console. It
basically means I'm a marketing slave. Right?
Yeah.
Like,
like we were comparing it to like designer clothes. Like neither of us are clothes horses, as you can clearly see. But it's like, yeah, I personally am not going to spend extra money to buy a shirt that looks the same as a shirt that's cheaper because it's a trendy shirt or a fashionable shirt. I don't go buy knockoffs because I don't care about looking fashionable.
Yeah.
But if I did, I would buy the knockoffs.
Yeah. Save money for the same thing, basically.
Yeah, I'm not going to buy a Gucci. I'm going to buy a Coogee.
Yeah.
Nobody's going to know the difference unless
I'm not going to buy Chanel. I'm buying Channel.
Yeah. If everybody's close enough to know the difference, then good luck. You won. You win a prize. Of knowing that I'm cheap. I don't care. Yeah. But so that was one of the reasons I did not care at all about Xbox going multi-platform. Like, I guess it's not completely true. I think I agree with you that it's a good idea to have games be able to be available more widely. As a gamer, so you're not don't have to be locked out of an experience because you didn't buy the right console. I like that aspect of it. I don't care about Microsoft's video gaming aspirations enough to have a horse in that race, I guess.
Yeah, and with Microsoft is really interesting because it's like a tertiary pillar for them. They have so many other things going on. I mean, they have Windows is the biggest thing. They're their biggest claim to fame. They got cloud computing, which is where most of their money is coming from nowadays.
AI right now they're trying to develop.
They have.
I guess it uses the cloud computing, right?
They have all of Microsoft Office, which is a huge seller for them. They just got so many. And then there's Xbox, and it's like, why is there Xbox? Like it's a pet project that's gone on for 4 generations, seemingly enough.
I mean, maybe it's not. Like, I can't argue that there's not been innovation driven from them competing with Sony in the console space.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Because Dreamcast died, so Sega got out the console space. And actually, that's a really good analogy, I feel like. When Sega's Dreamcast failed, they went into software, and they still make software, publish software for all sorts of systems. I don't know how successful they are, but they're not dying.
Yeah.
They're not,
But it didn't springboard them into bigger. Basically, like, they did not get bigger when they did. They got smaller and stayed smaller.
But also, Sega was in a steep decline.
Yes.
And this was kind of like a last-ditch effort. They literally bailed themselves out by going multi-platform, and opened themselves up to new platforms. I feel like Xbox is maybe doing it to jump that gun. Before they start going down, they're going to eject and parachute down. Like, it could be. The cynic in me could be like, oh, they're phasing out the video game business. So they're going to start with hardware getting out. And then they can do whatever they want or just continue making passive money off of publishing software. Like they've been doing for the rest of their life. Yeah. The less cynical version of it could be just, we want to be the Pathfinders. Like they've been pushing crossplay for a lot of things. And they were at one point talking about doing cloud gaming and allowing that through Switch. Mm-hmm. The Xbox branded cloud gaming, but you play it on a Switch.
Yeah.
Nintendo gets a cut of it somehow, however they work out that licensing agreement, but then players get to play Halo with the Nintendo Switch without releasing Halo on Nintendo Switch.
Right.
Which is probably the best of both worlds for Xbox.
Yeah.
And Nintendo doesn't care.
I think Nintendo would be into that. Be like, all right, you're selling another game? Sure. Sell another game. Like, make us more. It just makes them look better. Yeah.
And meanwhile, Sony's always been very, very reticent to do cross-platform.
Yeah.
They were like, there's like, at some point, there were 3 games that Sony allowed cross-platform play with Xbox and or Nintendo. And I know Destiny 2 was one of them because it was a big deal when they were like, okay, fine, I guess you can all play in the same ecosystem. Because that was part of the pitch of the game in the first place. It's always online, so everybody playing should be on the same online. So let that happen. And they were like, fine. And there was another like burgeoning game as a service game that was out around the same time. I forget what it's called, but they also did it. So there were like 2. I'm sure there's more now. It was a Call of Duty. One of the Call of Duties. They were like, yeah, we should be able to be cross-platform. No, it wasn't, because that hasn't happened until relatively recent.
Well, so that was something I never understood about like the exclusivity of having non-crossplay, because I know, like, from a developer's perspective, you have to do more work to make it not work cross-platform. I know, like, imagine this, like, from a web developer's perspective, you have a mobile app and you have a website, and you could say, like, well, now I'm going to have a whole different backend, different database for both. Like, why would you do that?
Yeah, like if you're doing a server-based... Like,
it's a server, and you connect to it, and these are the clients, and the clients might be on different devices, but they're still clients in the same server. Why would you have 2 separate servers?
You got to sort them in different bins just because they got to connect it from a PlayStation versus an Xbox.
Like, this non-crossplay was important enough to these companies that they devoted resources to separate. They spent money separating their client base, and I guess, like, it was worth it. Then they're like, well, Call of Duty on the 360, like, they must only play on 360, and they can't play with their PS3 friends because maybe we'll coerce some of those PS3 people to play on 360 instead. I don't know.
I think that was part of the worry. They were like,
it just seems like so much work for a niche, you know? Like, I'm sure that happened, but there's probably just as many people like, well, I'm not going to play this Call of Duty with you. I'll just play with I'm not buying another box.
So I can't find in a quick Google search while I was trying to listen to you as well. I didn't want to be rude.
Yeah.
As of just November 2023, there was an article about cross-play and cross-progression in the newest Call of Duty.
Mm-hmm.
So it sounds like it was new enough or unique enough of a feature that they made an article about it to say, hey, you can kind of carry over your save from one to the other using like who publishes that? Activision? Use like your Activision account or something. So yeah, Sony's always, Sony most likely was probably just, they had a stranglehold on their customers.
Right.
They're like, oh, if there's other ecosystems, they can also play a Call of Duty game on the Xbox. And it runs well enough that they can play with me playing on the PS4 or PS5. Yeah, why not get an Xbox later maybe if there's some game I want to play on Xbox?
Yeah.
I see that as a very real thing that those executives were worried about. I don't think they should have been, but I think that's something they were worried about.
And I think like going back to Nintendo, I think it is such a strange thought to think of like a Mario game running on like a PlayStation. Like it feels wrong. And I know that's a lot of implicit bias that I've come up with, but also it would make the Nintendo console. Nintendo makes money off their consoles. First of all, like they have a different business model than the others. They almost have always sold at a profit. The box is a profit. So it behooves them just getting the foot in the door. Selling more boxes makes them more money.
Yeah.
Good. But if you have a thriving box that other people are putting games out on, you get licensing fees. So the more people who are playing and buying games for the Nintendo Switch, Nintendo makes more money. Yeah. So they want more people to stay there. So short term, like this is the sort of thing like shareholders might be very short-sighted. They'd be like, well, if you put out Mario games on PS5, you'd have that whole install base of like 60 million people you could sell more to. That's true. But it makes the Switch less appealing. And then you sell fewer Switches.
I mean,
you sell fewer future Switches.
I mean, I see what you mean. I agree with the idea that you're saying.
Yeah.
But I think the reason for that, if that would happen, I think the reason for selling fewer Switches would be just that the Switch is underpowered compared to the other consoles. So if you play Mario Kart on a PS5 or Mario Kart on a Switch, there's a reasonable expectation for the Mario Kart on the PS5 to look or run better, or maybe just be in 4K, which you don't get on the Switch version.
Yeah.
Which would drive certain players to play it just because, I can play it in 4K.
I'm thinking more like there's a lot of people who have one platform, right? They have a Switch, they have a PS4, they have an Xbox, whatever, a PC. And those people are unlikely. Like if you already have it, if you have a PS4 and you're like, man, I don't have access to those, you're like, oh yeah, I'd love to play Mario Kart on PS4. Yeah. Great. Vice versa on the Switch. Like they're probably not going to buy a PS4 to play it fancier on that.
Well, probably not just for that reason. But also, I don't know, I disagree with thinking that people either have an Xbox or a PS5 or a Switch, or PS or Switch. I think they have a PS or an Xbox and also a Switch. Because A, Switch is cheaper, and B, Switch has Nintendo exclusive games.
Yeah.
Which you can love Nintendo games and also love the exclusive games Sony puts out. But because of the nature of the Switch console, especially with the newest Xbox, with the newest generation of the console war consoles, Xbox Series X and PS5, I'm like, I don't know. I don't think that there's that many, unless there's resource limitations.
There are, and I think a lot of people have those resource limitations.
Well, yeah, but so if somebody's like, oh, you can only afford to get you a Switch or buy myself a Switch, it's half the price of the other ones. So that makes a lot of economical sense.
Yeah.
But I don't think somebody would be like, oh, I don't want to play Mario on a PlayStation 5. Like, full stop. Like, if everything was equal and they had both consoles, I don't think they'd be like, I don't want to play it on, I want to play it on the Switch. Per se. Some people would because they are like, Nintendo should be on a Nintendo. Nintendo games should be on a Nintendo console. I can see that as a mindset. But if all things were equal availability-wise, I don't see that as something that would stop people from playing it on other consoles. I think a lot of people would enjoy being able to play it up-resed or whatever. I don't have a 4K TV. I've never seen a 4K anything for more than like a couple minutes at a friend's house.
Yeah.
So I don't have any horse in that race as is now.
Yeah.
If I had a 4K TV or 8K TV, I could definitely see myself being like, I'm only going to play this in 4K. Yeah. Anything less than that, I don't want to play it. But yeah, like imagine like the hypothetical kid. They get games and stuff for Christmas. They get a Switch for Christmas because their parents are like, oh, Switch is cheap, Switch is portable, you can take that with you to school or to camp or go outside. It's a good value for a kid console.
Yeah.
A PS5 is a less good value for a kid console, but you could get a PS5 for a kid and there's kids who play on a PS5.
Yeah.
That hypothetical kid, given their druthers, I don't think would care if Mario Odyssey was on Xbox Series X. And they had an Xbox Series X to play Mario Odyssey.
No, I don't think so.
I think somebody who's like a Nintendo stan is like, I want to play this on a Nintendo because Nintendo's play best on a Nintendo. Like,
yeah,
Mac, like certain things are best on a MacBook.
Well, the gamers, right? The people, the hardcore, the people who follow these things and have an allegiance. Like, those are the people who would care.
Yeah, but again, like, yeah, those are the people that would care.
Right.
I also repeat, like the refrain I said earlier is, I don't care, and I don't know why you care about it from that point of view. Like,
well, I think the one thing we haven't talked about, and I think is a big pillar of Xbox currently, is Game Pass. And it seemed like that was kind of it wasn't so much games as a service as consoles as a service. And the whole idea with Game Pass is that you pay a monthly fee.
Consoles be games as a service. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
It's different. So, games as a service implies that you have one game that you keep on putting money into to play that game in new ways. This is an ecosystem you buy into, and you get access to all these games on either PC or Xbox, and maybe Switch coming up.
Well, not
regardless.
Yeah, continue your point, and I'll say my piece.
So it's a new, and that's basically a subscription model, and you're not paying for the games individually. And a lot of people are like, well, that's a great deal. What's it, $10 a month? I pay $10 a month. I have access to this big library of games. I get to play them as much as I want, as long as I'm paying the $10, right? Now, that is what a lot of people associate Xbox with. Like, that's the differentiator. It has Game Pass. If it doesn't have Game Pass, why am I playing an Xbox? Why am I thinking about Microsoft?
Okay, so here's my question to you. Like, have you used Game Pass at all?
I have not used it.
Like, you ever used like a free, because they have free trials all the time. You ever like tried it with free trials?
No.
Yeah, so there's PC Game Pass, which, well, there's Xbox Game Pass, which is basically, hey, you subscribe to the service, you can play all these games that are on Game Pass. Some games are released directly day and date, for sale and on Game Pass. And then there's also like a library of games you can play, older games you can play at any time. Yeah. It's more like an extension of the Gaikai thing, or like this streaming service Sony had. I guess they still have, I don't know, where you can like basically pay a service and you play games that stream over your console. So that's that Xbox Game Pass. And then there's PC Game Pass, which is basically Xbox Game Pass's features, but with a selection of games for PC that are on PC.
That you play on your hardware.
Yeah, that you play on your PC. So you can't play Xbox games that are only on Xbox on PC.
Yeah, those would have to be streamed.
Yeah, they would have to do a cloud streaming thing, which I don't know if they do that or not. I know they've talked about it a lot. Whenever I've used PC Game Pass to play PC games a couple of times that I didn't want to buy. I wanted to rent the game basically.
Yeah.
But it doesn't rent me the console because I don't get an Xbox to play Xbox on. I get to play games that are on maybe exclusively Xbox or PC, but it's still PC.
Yeah. So the thing is, like, people will buy an Xbox just for Game Pass because they're like, well, I can play these Game Pass games on it.
Yeah. They can buy an Xbox and not have to buy games.
Right.
They can rent games.
Yeah.
Yeah. But that's different than I don't know. I see that's different than a console as a service because to me that implies you get to pay to play the console without owning the console.
Yeah. It's not a
but you have to own the console to play the Xbox games.
Regardless, there's a lot of people who buy an Xbox and never pay for a game.
Yeah.
They pay for Game Pass, right? And it's a very different take on selling games. And it seems like one that would make Microsoft a lot less money because games now are $60-$70. And so instead they have people who are just like $10. Like if you pay $120 a year, a lot of people are probably spending more than that on their games, and they're probably spending less using Game Pass. And that's what makes it compelling. But at the same time, like, you're losing money at the top.
Well, Microsoft's not losing money. Well, I guess it depends on the economics of a game sale. Like the $60, $70 game, you go to the store, buy a CD or a DVD with a game on it. How much money does Microsoft get out of that cut for like a Xbox exclusive? I don't know the numbers for that, but do you have any idea what the numbers would be?
Something in the realm of like a third.
You get like a third of it. A chunk of it goes to the developers. A chunk of it goes to distribution.
Yeah.
A chunk of it goes to the place you bought it from.
Right.
Digital,
little tiny bit at the end.
Digital sales are different because if you're buying it from the Xbox ecosystem, there's not a middleman.
Yeah.
But you can also buy it outside the ecosystem at CD keys shops or just even online retailers that sell codes. But like, yeah, so development costs are the same, regardless of how it's released. You still got to make the game.
They're still expensive.
Printing the DVDs and the boxes isn't negligible, but it's not a huge chunk of the cost of production. Like, it's not like digital games are 20% cheaper than physical games. Maybe they should be, but they're not.
Oh, they're not cheaper. Well,
yeah, like they don't give you a discount for buying digital.
Well, do you know the reason they don't?
Because they don't have to, because they still get the money right away.
The main reason is because retailers, Best Buy will say, well, we're not carrying your games if you're selling. Consumers have no reason to buy their physical game through us if you're selling it cheaper online. So if you want us to carry your games and your hardware,
you got to keep the digital games.
You need to keep the digital games at price parity. So that's why we have price parity with digital. That's why digital's never a better price. That's the
dumbest reason. Especially because, one of our friends, he buys games on disc because then he can sell the game on disc when he's done. And he's recouping some of the costs he's spending on the game, which if I had the discipline to do that, I would also do it.
You used to do it.
Well, yeah, because I had a console I played on. I play on PC now, and I'm like, it's much easier to download the games. And then with Switch, it was just like, I play mostly on Switch. I play Nintendo games on Switch.
Yeah.
Everybody else that has a Switch buys a Nintendo game. So who am I selling it to? Everybody has it that wants it. So I'm not going to, and Nintendo doesn't lower their prices due to the age of game as, like other developers. So yeah. So it's not like, oh, I played Mario Odyssey. Now I'm done. I'm going to sell it to nobody because everybody else that wants Odyssey bought it. And if they're waiting to play Odyssey, it's still going to be $60. The used is still going to be whatever the used price is.
Yeah.
Some people will buy used.
That means there's more. You could put out Odyssey $40 and people would buy it.
I don't want to sit. I don't have Odyssey sitting on an eBay account or something for months, weeks, waiting for somebody to buy it.
Yeah.
Something, if the Nintendo games don't have hot streaks of sales, they're always going to sell for the same price. They're always going to sell when somebody wants to play a Nintendo game.
Yeah.
They get a Switch 2 years after Odyssey comes out. They want to play Odyssey. They buy Odyssey. It's still $60.
Yeah.
Me as the seller, I'm like, I don't want to sit there and baby this listing. And if I go to like a GameStop, if they, they give me $2 for this thing because everybody has it.
Long and short, like you're too lazy to resell, which I get.
If you want to say it that way, yeah.
Yeah, like, because it's work. It's effort to try to do that. Yeah.
Like our friend already does online sales of stuff. So he already has a pipeline of selling things. So he just adds games to it.
Yeah.
So it makes much more sense for him than,
if you're not in the logistics of packaging and shipping things, like it's more work.
Yeah. And then there's also the aspect of like, oh, I'll buy a game so I can play it.
Yeah.
I bought the game. I don't necessarily need to play all in one sitting. I can come back and play it later. If I'm selling it, then I have to play it right now and just rush through the game so I can sell it before it loses value.
Yeah.
So to me, that is another reason why I'm like, I don't like playing games under time crunches. Now, conversely, for Prince of Persia, The Lost Crown, which is a great game, by the way. I used the Ubisoft like game subscription thing.
Yeah.
It was, I think it's $17 a month. And so I paid $17 to play Prince of Persia, The Lost Crown. It costs $50 digital. It's only digital, I believe. So I'm like, I could pay $50 and play a game for 20 hours, or I could pay $17 and play a game for 20 hours.
Right.
So I chose to pay $17 to play for 20 hours.
And this is you coming from a place of you're disciplined. You will cancel it when you're done with it.
I canceled it as soon as I bought it because they give you to the end of your term. Like they don't really prorate services like that anymore. Yeah. If you cancel it, they're like, cool. We won't charge you again.
And
next
I wonder
month.
how many other people do that, because I know you've mentioned before, like you've jumped into Game Pass and jumped out when you got done playing a game.
Yeah. I had Game Pass for 3 months. I paid $10 total because the first one was a free pass.
And I hear about people doing similar things on Netflix for they're like, oh, there's a thing coming out I want to see. Great. And then
you wait for the season to come out and you watch it all with the one $15 fee, and then you don't
see that. To me, I'm too lazy to do that sort of thing because I'm like,
well, so I have this discussion with Ayana a lot because she always forgets. It used to work where if you signed up for a service and you canceled it, they're like, cool, it's canceled now. You paid $15. You cancel after a week. Here's $12 back.
Oh yeah, like prorated.
Yeah, they prorated it. They don't do that anymore.
No, they don't do that.
So what they do is they say, we will not bill you anymore.
Yeah.
Meaning they never took your money. They're not giving it back, but they won't charge you the next time. So if you cancel it immediately after signing up, you don't have to remember to do it because it's already, you still have that month.
Yeah.
They're not giving you the money back. So you have the month to do it and it automatically ends.
Now this business model is designed to keep you paying. Like you're supposed to, the company wants you to keep paying.
Yeah. What they're hoping is somebody's going to be like, I might not be finished in a month, so I'll keep paying it.
And then forget about it.
They'll forget. Or they'll, at least in the most charitable sense, they'll keep playing new games that show up on Game Pass.
And I guess this implies that the whole reason the companies want subscriptions is they hope that people forget and continue paying.
Like, I know that I agree with you because I'm also a cynic, but yeah, I notice like you always are very cynically focused on like subscription services. Like, because they run contrary to how you would want to, how you as a consumer want to interface with stuff.
Well, it's not necessarily true. I do subscribe to a bunch of things.
You subscribe to things, but like things you plan to do ongoingly.
Yeah. Like this is my lifestyle now. I have this thing. All right, blah blah. Like I'll integrate it in every once in a while. But I know the companies. Like I've been in the meetings with companies doing subscription services. Like, well, this is sticky because people sign up and they don't unsign up.
Yeah. Well, so like, but that's gamble from both ends. The company's hoping people sign up and forget and keep paying it.
Yeah.
The consumer's hoping that they can game the system by jumping in and jumping out and hoping that the company doesn't penalize them for doing so. And I'm assuming the corporations are winning because like systems like that where they stop billing you when you cancel, they don't prorate it, or they'll say, oh, your saves will stay if you leave. We don't care if you leave. Your game saves will still be there when you come back because they're either local or we're just saving on the cloud for you for 2 years.
Yeah.
So they make it easy for the consumer to jump in and jump out. So they think, yeah, I got them. And then they might forget later. Or something like that.
And you say it's good for the companies they're winning. I don't know that they're winning.
Well, because people are still forgetting. Some people.
Well, some people are forgetting.
They're not cheap enough for, I think, the majority of consumers to, I think they'll notice after 2 or 3 months, oh, I've been paying this money. I should stop because I don't have money to keep paying this.
But we talk about like media streaming. I think Netflix is the only one that's actually generating a profit at this point. I know Disney Plus loses money. And their big reveal this time was like, hey, we're losing less money. And people are like, oh, good, you're losing less money.
Yeah.
But HBO Max does not make money. And Paramount Plus does not make money.
And like as soon as HBO Max and Disney Plus were like, oh, we don't make money. And I'm like, cool, I'm canceling your subscriptions.
Wait, the second that happened?
No, well, because it reminded me that I'm paying these companies for streaming stuff. And I'm like, oh, yeah, well, I could just stop paying you then, because if you're losing money, you might just decide to stop doing it. And then I'm like, oh, if I wanted to watch all of The Mandalorian when it was done and you cancel it as soon as the last season comes out, I won't get that chance. So why keep it? Like Netflix, I'm used to going there and be like, oh, I'm going to browse to see maybe that's something I want to watch. Or maybe there's something I didn't know was on Netflix.
Like that's more of a lifestyle thing.
Yeah, it's more of a lifestyle thing. And I'm used to it because I've had it since it started streaming. HBO Max is like, oh, that's because I want to watch HBO stuff. I could also watch it in other ways. I can sell the high seas. Or I could just wait for it to, they've started doing the thing where they sublet their stuff to other streaming services. Mm-hmm. There's a bunch of stuff from HBO just showed up on Netflix. So I'm like, cool. I don't need HBO Max. I can just wait for it to come out on Netflix in 6 months when the season's
messy.
over.
Like and making this stuff is so expensive. And I think they all figured like, oh, streaming services, Netflix is doing this. We want a piece of that pie.
No, what they thought was Netflix is doing it. Why don't we get that money? And now they're like, oh, because it's hard.
Yeah, it's hard. Like
it's hard. Netflix is already eating our lunch.
Yeah, when 15 companies are trying to vie for that monthly pie, and people are like, I don't want to sign up for. Like the last thing, I don't know about you, but you hear like, hey, it's a service, a monthly subscription. I'm just like,
yeah, that doesn't. I will admit, it excited me when Netflix was like, instead of renting discs in the mail that might come or they might get lost in the mail or they take 3 days, you can have instant access to the movies you want to watch. That was a great idea. And I was like, this is the future.
Yeah.
And then now it's 15 years later and it's like, this future sucks. I want a better future. But yeah. So.
Well, the future. Yeah. So Netflix is still pretty good, but it's less good than it used to be.
Yeah.
They now, I feel like they had a pivot where they went to a lot of original content. Netflix makes a ton of stuff that they put out, and that didn't used to be the case. Like we all subscribed to Netflix before they had so much original.
To watch
content.
Like licensed stuff. But but at the same time, like I like a lot of Netflix original stuff that I've decided to check out, either because I heard good reviews from people that are like, oh, this thing seems fun, or I was just like, oh, what's this weird thing? And I like that weird thing. My problem with it though is it caused them to try to make an algorithm that they could game with their content. You're like, oh, let's see what's on Netflix, and the first 10 things are Netflix originals.
Yeah.
Like, well, if I want to watch a movie that's now released on Netflix, a theatrical movie that came out that wasn't made by Netflix, I have to search for it. And it's the same type of thing that makes Facebook and other social media sites annoying to use to me and other people that like think like me. Is I want to see the content I want to see. You used to serve me content I want to see. Now you serve me what you want me to see.
Yeah, and they have the stuff.
Yeah, they have the stuff out that you know what I want to see. and you want me to start seeing other stuff like YouTube. I love YouTube. YouTube Daddy, you're great for us. Please keep treating YUNKJunk very well. But I'm like, oh, like I like watching the Game Grumps. I go to watch the Game Grumps and it shows me stuff from like very specific niche creators that I do not agree with their viewpoints ever.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know why they show me that, because the content of Game Grumps also doesn't align with those creators. But I think the content of people that watch Game Grumps align with those creators.
Like people who like this also like this. So that's why we'll show you, because maybe you'll like it too.
Yeah. And I'm like, well, I never click on that stuff. You should know I don't like it. But the way the algorithm works is if you're scrolling and you stop scrolling and it's on the screen, it thinks you're interested in it.
Yeah.
But it's because they mix it in like, oh, video game stuff. Stock market stuff. I was like, I don't care about stock market stuff, but it's next to the video game thing I'm looking at, trying to decide if I want to watch it. So they think I want to look at stock market stuff.
You're annoyed at the curation, and that's because like
not only curation, but it's transparent. It's not transparent. It's opaque. I see it.
Yeah,
curating me, and I don't like it because I just want to see. I want it to curate for me, not curate for them.
See, and that stuff, it actually doesn't bug me too much because I'm going to search. I know what I want. Ding, ding, ding. I get it. And I hear this about like Steam as well. People are like, oh, Steam like doesn't have visibility for the stuff I want. It's like, you know what game you want? Just type in the name of the game.
Well, yeah, but some people like to be like, oh, let me browse to see what kind of game I want to check out.
Yeah, I've never done that with a video game. Well, like I'd be like, dude, like here's a list of games. Oh, that one looks interesting. Like, except I guess I used to do it back in the old video rental days where you walk down the aisle.
Yeah,
but
just like what games do they have? Yeah.
Even then, I probably knew it because I was reading all the magazines.
Yeah, we were up to date. We were hip on because like I forget what was it exactly we were talking about this years ago where you were just spam emails.
Yeah,
like people are like, oh, spam's such a menace. I hate spam. Spam's annoying. And you're like, I just don't look at spam. I just ignore it.
Yeah,
and it's like, well, yeah, but when it's mixed in with your actual emails, and you got to discern what it is, and you're like, well, I just search for what I want. I just look for the email I'm looking for. And it's like, yeah, like if everybody could be that focused on using email, it wouldn't be a problem.
Right.
They would also find ways to make it your problem. If everybody used it the way you did, they would target spam at you in ways that would trick you into looking at it.
And I think some of this taps into the way people used to consume media, which is on television. You'd go channel surfing. You'd be like, what?
Yeah, I don't know what's on at 7:30 and
don't know, and you flip around and you're like, oh, this might be interesting, and you give it a shot.
Yeah.
And I think maybe this algorithm browsing is kind of similar. Like Netflix brings you things, you didn't ask for these things, but sometimes you see a Netflix original and you'll watch it and you'll get hooked. You're like, oh, that's cool. Or at least that's interesting. Like it's stupid and bad, but like it's interesting.
Yeah, well, possibly, but I'm like when I was channel surfing, I would be like, oh, what's on? The Simpsons, I've seen this rerun. Click. The McLaren News Hour. I don't want to watch old men talk about news. Click.
Yeah.
But with what you're saying, it would be like YouTube is like, oh, you didn't scroll fast enough past the old men talking, so now here's only old men talking.
Oh, that's like, actually,
that's what happened. Yeah. That's what it looks like to me, and I'm like, yeah, right. I don't want to look at old men talking. I don't have I didn't have an infinite scroll mouse.
Right.
I'd scrolled down on the wheel, and I took my finger off to continue scrolling, and in that 2 seconds, it's like, this is what you want to see. My Facebook is all old pictures of Philadelphia. It's a site called Old Picture of Philadelphia. It only shows me that for every post now because I will look at them sometimes. I'm like, oh, cool, interesting old post of Philadelphia. It could be somebody's birthday. I don't know because it just tells me about old pictures of Philadelphia.
Look at Chestnut Hill in 1808. And
it's like, okay, cool. Who won the Super Bowl? There should be 18 posts right after Super Bowl. Who won? Look at these old pictures.
Are you really going to Facebook to find out who won the Super Bowl?
No. It was just an example of like, maybe I want to be like, oh, I wonder what my friend Kevin's talked about that he always posts interesting Facebook posts. They showed me something from 2 weeks ago and a bunch of old pictures of Philadelphia. I have to search for his name to see what he posted
to find
today.
The most recent stuff.
And he posted something today.
So the algorithm so it's kind of like, you're exactly right. If the television channel flipping was trying to be one step ahead of you.
If it flip channels for me, if I go past McLaren News Hour, I'm like, oh, what are they talking about? I don't care. Flip, and it shows me 2020, and it's like, I don't care about this either. Wait, 2020 comes on 2 hours from now.
Yeah.
Why is this like? That's what it feels like to me. The nightmare version of channel surfing.
Nightmare. So that sounds infuriating. Yeah, what you're describing, and that is what's happening.
Yeah, and that's not how it was.
Yeah,
that's why it infuriates me. And so to take that back to like a Game Pass or stream. What were we talking about? Oh, the streaming services, and they're hoping you forget to cancel.
Yeah.
So yeah, what they're hoping partially is you're like, oh, I'm gonna sign up for Game Pass. I'm going to play this game. I'm done playing this game. Oh, wait, what other games are like this? Cool. I'm going to play this other game. It promotes me. Whenever I've used it, because I've only used it sparingly on and off, it's like, here's the latest game we make. Yeah. Microsoft makes. Do you want to play this? It was like Flight Sim 2023 or something last time I looked at it. I was like, no, I don't care. Next time, hey, do you want to watch flights? Do you want to play Flight Sim? No, I don't care. But that was fine. Yeah. If it was like, hey, do you want to play? I play game called Humankind. It's like Civilization. If they were like, hey, do you want to play Civ 6? No. Okay, cool. Do you want to play Stellaris? No. Okay. Do you want to play Age of Empires? Like, no, I don't want to play any of these. If it started doing that, I would hate it and just be like, I'm never using Game Pass again because it's annoying.
Yeah. So it kind of sounds like we have access to so many things now, but it's the trying to guess what we want and trying to feed us. It's irritating. Yeah. I want to find the meal that's delectable to my eye and brain. Yeah.
I don't want you giving me a bunch of food that I don't like, and I know I don't like, and you think I might like it, and I know I don't like it, and I don't want to try it.
I guess, kind of in conclusion, we're not buying Xboxes, and so we don't get...
Why buy the Xbox when you can Game Pass the milk for free?
Right.
Well, for $5.99 a month.
Yeah. And again, a part of me is like, oh, like the Xbox is actually a pretty good deal. Like you get this pretty powerful system for a decent price with lots of games on it. You can play a bunch of games with
like 15, but then $10 like, a month or whatever.
Got a PC. I got...
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
But, yeah. But just to continue clarifying, just so we don't spread any misinformation. Yeah, Game Pass, Xbox Game Pass on PC does not let you play Xbox games
right.
on PC.
Yeah, it's just, I'm making the point that a lot of those games are already on PC, regardless. The games that I would want to play.
Yeah, because they released them both.
They're cross-platform.
Yeah, and there are some that they don't release on PC for Xbox. They could, because it's basically a PC. But yeah, there's some they don't. So I get buying an Xbox to have that value, or that perceived value. But yeah, PC Game Pass is a completely, almost completely different animal. Yeah. If Steam had a Game Pass, this is the end part of my rant earlier. If Steam had a Game Pass where I could pay $5-10 a month and play whatever games are on Steam whenever I want, I would pay it.
They would.
Everyone
would buy that.
And I play enough Steam, like I play enough PC gaming, and I do enough PC gaming that I would not cancel it because I would be like, there's always something I want to play on Steam.
Yeah.
Now, Steam wouldn't do it because they don't need to, because they still make money hand over fist.
Yeah, Valve is a fascinating company that we don't know anything about because they're a privately held company. They're so smart. They're so smart because they do what they want. They make tons of money, and they don't have to tell anyone about any of it. They're just like, no one knows how much money they make on Steam. You can guess because you see how many people are using it and we know what their take is on every game sold.
Is Gabe Newell the richest person in the world? We will never know.
We'll never know. He might be.
Well, maybe when he dies and they're like, here's his net worth. Because it's the NDA that we had is died along with him, and now he's worth more than the GDP of, France.
Yeah. So yeah, spend your money on Steam games and give Gabe Newell more money.
But yeah, I would play the hell out of a Nintendo game if it was on a console I owned already.
Yeah.
I'm not going to buy a console that's not Nintendo to play a Nintendo game to just settle that part of that discussion.
Yeah. It was sprawling, but I think we got to an interesting place.
I was trying to avoid ranting. It seemed like you wanted me to rant.
You bring the rant on.
They don't pay enough to get the rant. The rant's going to cost $10 a month.
Yeah, we get our YouTube Plus subscription or whatever. Yeah,
YUNKJunk, YUNKJunk.
YUNKJunk.
Yeah. That's where all the rants are.
Well, I've enjoyed hearing your rant, and I hope to hear many more in the future.
You will. I don't know about the viewers, but Chris will. Unfortunately for him.
Yeah, we'll see you guys later. Thank you so much for tuning in. And
this has been Chris McGuire.
Like, comment, subscribe, and this has been Steve Wright.
YUNKJunk!